Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
All right, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. This is the show where we hear from musicians and artists about how they keep on going in a weird time for music. On today's episode, we got Ty Segall, kind of a mythical guy, I think. He's sort of one of those guys who I've seen a lot of records in people's houses, listened to it in living rooms, but don't know too much about him outside his music. Read a couple of interviews here and there, but he is shrouded in a bit of mystery. So I was kind of surprised that they were up for doing this interview, and Drag City put me in touch. Drag City is the great indie record label that Ty puts out his records on, and the new one, Possession, is out this Friday. Absolute belters on this record. It's a ripping record. Great to hear about Ty and his life in music, a couple of old part-time jobs, how he keeps on going, how he writes songs, and the gear that he uses for the gear nerds in this fairly lengthy chat. Cheers for being here. I hope you enjoy it. If you do and you're new here, we put out 2 episodes every week. You can click subscribe and get notified when they come out wherever you're listening, on Spotify or Apple. And you can leave us 5 stars there as well if you're able to do that. We're an independent company and we love doing these interviews, so those reviews make a big difference for people discovering the show and also keep on getting great guests like Ty Segall on. After the jump, we'll be hearing from Ty. 101 part-time jobs. What were you into? What was the first music that you got into as a teenager? Were you getting into Black Flag stuff, Descendants?
Yeah, but that was a little, yes. I mean, the first stuff I really got into was oldies, and oldies radio was the big thing. And then,
is that surf rock stuff? What's that?
Well, sure, a little bit, but a lot of it was Motown and 50s rock and roll, and then 60s stuff, Kinks and Beatles and that, and then got into Nirvana, and then I got into surfing and skateboarding more, and through that I got into punk. Before I got really into garage music or even hardcore punk or whatever, I was really into no wave music.
Okay.
It's funny because before I really got into the Elevators or Nuggets or the Monks or whatever, we all got the No New York comp.
Okay, don't know it.
It's really good. There's James Chance and the Contortions, ESG, Dene, Mars.
Okay.
All these weird New York bands. And we just got really into but at that time though, there was when I was a teenager, 99 to 2005 or whatever, that was when dance punk and all that stuff was kind of really popular again. It was the Rapture and whatever.
The pre-LCD sound system stuff.
yeah, like all that stuff was really popular. So it kind of makes sense that like we were into that, like got into Gang of Four and the pop group
Yeah.
and all those bands about like 15,
Yeah, cool.
16, and as well as Black Flag. And I think there was like a year, maybe like freshman in high school, sophomore in high school, around that time it was like I got really into DC hardcore, and I was like, yeah, hardcore. But then I was always the guy that was like, but the Velvet Underground's the best band of all time. Like I was the dude that was like, no, the Velvets
Yeah.
and Black Sabbath. So I don't know, a lot of zigs and zags.
A lot of stuff in there. I bet you get along well with Thurston Moore with all the New York stuff. He loves that.
I haven't talked to Thurston in years, but I don't know if we've ever talked about music like that. But he's a nice guy.
Yeah, really nice. He's in London, isn't he? I grew up I was born in 91. So by the time I was getting a teenager, like, I grew up getting into like Guns N' Roses and Metallica, sure. And then sort of, I basically found kind of punk rock and hardcore through like pop punk. And because pop punk was just so accessible, it was like mainstream. And it's funny now, I think a lot about how like that kind of mainstream of music kind of missells you. It's like capitalism in music, right? I mean, any kind of pop stuff is, but it's like, it almost tries to sell you this dream. It's a strange world to be introduced to, because it's almost like, I don't know, getting you into like soccer or football and being like, this is the Premier League, this is the only thing you can be, but music has so much depth beyond that.
It's true. Well, yeah, it's like, what is punk, right? It's an attitude, it's a state of mind. It's not a sound or, how you dress or that you have to do a certain thing. Yes, like there are these, versions of punk that are pretty classic and well understood as punk, but the Velvets are punk
For sure.
like so yeah. No, I've been a firm believer since I figured that out, that everything is everything.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just like, it's just people making music.
Yeah.
Did you have that any experience when you were like a little bit younger, where you were starting to go to a venue, or you understood like the person who ran the venue or worked the bar, and kind of understood that this was like, it was like a lifestyle choice for a lot of people. A lot of people in this music, they're lifers. They work in record shops, they play in bands, they work at venues. You can make that stuff your life.
Oh yeah, I mean I made that choice. I am one of those people. I'm a lifer. And yeah, you talk to promoters and bookers, people that work shows, people that work at record stores. All it's like there's a deliberate choice going on there. Oftentimes you can make money and you can, have that be your livelihood. But I think a lot of the time, when you choose to work in the creative world, man, especially in America, you can't have that be your living. There's a lot of countries out there, amazingly so, they have grants and funding. America is not one of those countries.
Yeah.
So, you kind of just have to do it.
Yeah. England too. It's almost like there's like a contempt for it, which is so bizarre given that, England is so proud of the Stones and the Beatles, but there's like no real respect. England's infrastructure like holds grassroots music in contempt. It's like, fuck you,
No, that's funny. Well, on the flip side, when it's harder to make creative things, sometimes that stuff is the best stuff. So, I don't know.
You strike me as someone who's kind of got what you want to do fairly down.
Well, no, I mean, sure, I have like the things I like to do, and like I don't know. I love recording a tape.
Yeah.
I love analog stuff. But no, nothing's off the table. And I want to work with people, that do the complete opposite of me. That sounds great. I just have learned how to do recording, for instance, right? Like I've learned that a certain way.
And it works for you.
I prefer that sound for certain kinds of like rock and roll or punk or whatever. But that doesn't mean that, I love most music, so I'm down.
Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Like you said, like when you make that choice to be like, okay, I'm going to become a lifer, it feels like it doesn't come easy. Say something that would be, everyone would love to do is buy a house. Like to get a mortgage is pretty hard if you don't have like a regular employer. So even kind of a big basic thing like that, it's like already you're kind of crunched by big life there.
Well, a lot of people I know, across the world, it seems like they have a job, and then they have their organization or their thing that they're doing, especially like people who run clubs or promote shows or something like that. It's almost like it's their nonprofit thing. One person that comes to mind is Jim Smith. He runs The Smell. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's this all ages spot in LA. So many bands came from there, like No Age, Mika Miko. I mean, I've been playing there since I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great community based show space. It's like one of the last legit all ages clubs in LA. Back in the day, there was a lot of warehouses and a lot of kind of DIY stuff when I was growing up, but now not so much. Actually, none at all, really. There's like 2, and it's cool. Jim, but again, if you want to do this, you gotta do it. I mean, he worked in 9 to 5. He worked 40 hours a week, maybe 50 hours a week at his job, and then he'd come straight from his job and he'd work every show at The Smell.
Damn.
From like he'd get there at 7:30, and he'd leave at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And he'd do that 6 nights a week. Now, lots of people work there, and he maybe works 1 show a week because he's been doing it for 30 or 25 years or something.
Yeah. And when you know someone like that, you feel like, all right, okay, that's the bar.
That's the bar. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of, it's awesome, but it's like, punk music doesn't make any money. Weirdo music doesn't make any money. And then there's these random moments where cool, weird bands get to make it. And that's cool. It's not all about money, but
no,
it's cool to see bands, be able to live off their art.
For sure.
Very, very cool.
I mean, that Pavements movie is just about to come out.
Oh yeah.
And that looks great. Have you seen it?
I haven't. No, I actually got asked to moderate a Q&A for that movie. I couldn't do it. It was last week. But yeah, I just wanted to see it.
I feel like you might have been asked to be in it.
To be in it?
Yeah.
No way.
Well, I feel like you strike me, not that I read that anywhere, you strike me that, I don't know, you're a character in that world, like Emmett's in your band, and there's that link there, right? And I thought, oh, you're a guy around town.
I know Malcolmus. I've known him for maybe like 11 years or something.
Was that funny meeting him?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a legendary guy. He's just your normal weirdo musician guy too. So
he's the Tony Hawk of indie rock.
Maybe, yeah.
101 part-time jobs. 101 part-time jobs. With this money stuff, and you're so right, it's not fucking everything, but it's definitely freedom. And I guess if you can make a bit of money playing music, then you can spend more time playing music. And I guess that's like the biggest valuable thing is time. And like, being able to wake up on a weekday morning and write, instead of driving or getting the bus to somewhere that you have to spend 8 hours to.
No, yeah, yes. Yeah, for me, that was kind of the weirdest side effect of having music become my job. Was all of a sudden, and that's why when people ask me, they're like, man, how are you so prolific? Like, that's crazy. Like, what's up with that? And I'm like, man, this is my job. If it was your job, wouldn't you want to write music? That's cool. I get to, it's not that crazy to do one record a year when it's your job and it's fun and it's cool. It's like, what else am I gonna do? Just watch movies? Or I mean, what? So no, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's like, yeah, I like to. I'm proud of my job. You know, I like to be like, okay, I'm gonna get in the studio this month, and it's crazy that like a couple times a week is yields being super prolific or something. To me, that's just so fun.
So that happened, you'll be like writing you'll be writing fairly consistently, but like over a period of a week or a couple of weeks, that's where the rippers will come.
Well, I don't know. Who knows? It's pretty like random. I think that for me, it's like you gotta like find what you're doing. You gotta find the like space. Oh, I want to write a bunch of hard rock tunes. Cool. It takes a minute to figure out what you want to do. It's not like you just wake up and go, I want to make a bunch of this, you know, and even if you do have that, you might not be able to do it. You kind of just have to see. So that whole thing might take a month or 2 or 3 months to even
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
But I do think that keeping up the routine it's just fun. It's just fun. Cause then it's not so precious. If you haven't written anything in like 6 months and then you go to write something and it sucks, it's like, it breaks you, you know, it's a bummer. So if you're writing a bunch of stuff and most of it sucks, but then one thing's cool, you're like, whatever, I'm doing my thing, you know?
When did that happen? When did it become your job?
Well, I don't think I accepted that it was my job until like a couple years ago, but
Really?
no, I was, well, I quit. It was when I quit my last job. So my last job was I was a hydroponic grow cabinet maker.
Okay. Weed cannabis plants.
Yeah. This was in 2011. And it was a great job. It was a really cool job. It was in San Francisco. I worked with a bunch of weirdos. They were all great. You know, everybody, I don't smoke weed, but everybody was just smoking weed, blasting weird records. I heard about a lot of cool music in there. And, you know, it was just the kind of thing where a bunch of weird artists and musician types just kind of working on a weird little assembly line thing where we're just like, you know, I would make the fans and I'd make the drip systems. And then, you know, so-and-so would be like installing the lights. And it was cool. And it was like, it was the best money I'd ever made at that point. Before that, I had like endless amounts of weird and low paying jobs. So that was like my first real job. I had paid sick pay and, you know, paid vacation days and stuff. And I'd always cash those in when I'd go on tour. Cause at that point I wasn't making good money at all on tour. So it was cool. It really made my life doable. Like that's the thing I'm talking about is I had my job and then I had my music side hustle, you know? And then I started touring more, and this was right when a record of mine called Melted came out, and I got my first offer to go to Europe and tour, and I was like, I have to go, and my boss was like, cool, you can go, but you know the deal, you can't come back. I was like, all right, agreed. So then I went, and I never came back. I had a couple like stints of working 2 or 3 weeks at various things over maybe like the 2 years after that, but I never got a full-time job again. No.
And what is it? Was it like touring enough so you're getting those fees and you can like save up? So when you come home, you got enough, and you sell records. You sell a bit of record. You know, I know I go around a lot of people's houses that have Ty Segall records on them in the living room.
Yeah, I mean, back then royalties were not a thing for me. They became a thing around Goodbye Bread. I was like, oh, I actually got like a real chunk of money. This is crazy. But the touring thing was basically at that point was like, you go out for 4 weeks to 6 weeks. My first 2 European tours were 6-week tours.
That's
brutal,
insane.
brutal. You leave. Yeah. So we like the first European tour, right? and this is actually amazing because most bands don't even break even anymore. But back then, 6 weeks on the road, we each made $200. So we were like, wow, we made money. Amazing. But we were making okay money in the States. So it would be like my rent at that time was $300,
Damn.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then it pretty soon went up to 5. So it'd be like you go on tour and you make, $1,000. And then you were at home for 3 weeks. You pay your rent, you pay food, you have $200 in the bank. Then you leave for another month. And maybe that time you make $1,100. Then 3 weeks later, you go do another thing. So that's how it was for me for a good 2 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, by the time I got home from the tours, it would be like, okay, I can be at home for a month and a half instead of 3 weeks. So now it's like, and then over time, hopefully, you make it so you only do maybe 3 or 4 tours a year.
So you saw it grow in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was just kind of, it's almost like I bought the ticket, and so I had to take the ride. I quit my job, and I called my own bluff. I just did it, and the whole thing for me is I was never even trying for this to be my job. That was not a goal at all. That wasn't an aspiration. That wasn't a dream at all, because I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was absurd. So my whole thing from day one was, I just want to make a single. I want to make a 45. And I made a 45. My God, I want to make another one. So I made another one. No, maybe I can make an album. So then that's how it was. And, oh man, I want to do a West Coast tour. Okay, well, maybe we can do a US tour. Okay. And, so on and so forth.
And now you're like, not to put the pressure on too much, but you are a beacon of hope for a lot of people who play like weirdo music or indie rock, garage rock, punk rock, whatever you want to call it. You're kind of a guiding light, because it feels like you haven't got yourself into any trouble going into like debt with any big label, or seems like you've kept it fairly cottage industry. You've kept it fairly close, and that seems to be the way to do it today. That seems to be the smart way to do it.
I do think that, yeah, working with a cool indie label or a few of them, or, not taking the money right away, or maybe doing it yourself for a while. These are all ways to like have a realistic, like a good sense of reality when it comes to being a musician. I think the way it's always been for a while is, labels throw money around, and then all of a sudden, you have to have like a big record to make a lot of money. So for me, it's like, well, why spend that money? Why don't you just try to make the record and then have a more realistic relationship to what it means to make records and to work in the music industry. But I mean, I never really, I've always worked with people that I've been a fan of what they do, Drag City, In the Red. So I'm lucky.
I think one thing that I've kind of figured out in my old age of 34 is that, when you do something on a small scale or by yourself or whatever, and not try to look up to some kind of homogenous bigger idea, that actually, like, you get a lot more out of life that way. You get a lot more personality, you get a lot more color, a lot more texture. I think there's like, you're almost sort of missing out on something,
I mean, I guess it just depends on what you're a fan of, So I think a lot of bands, they want to be huge bands. They want to be giant bands. A lot of people like, Nevermind is the ultimate thing. For me, I like the secret records. I've always wanted to make secret records where, like, those kind of records where you meet someone and they're like, have you heard this record?
Yeah.
It's insane. Those are so cool to me. So I don't know. It's like you said, different strokes for different folks. But I've never been a fan of money leading any sort of decision. That you have to pay attention to it. You know, people got to get paid. You have to pay. You have to pay to play. But
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the thing that decides what you do, unless it has to be. You know, so I mean, if you're lucky enough to have it not control your decision making, then you're very lucky.
Possession is a fucking ripper.
Oh, thanks.
It's such a great record. Where did you start with it? What was the tent pole or the tent poles on there? What were the first few tracks that you were like, oh, this is it. This is the record.
Man, I think Skirts of Heaven was the first song we finished. And then maybe Shoplifter.
Mm-hmm. Great intro track. Great first track.
Thank you. And then maybe Possession. And then we were like, okay, I think we got the vibe with these three. And then we just kept going. And yeah, thanks.
It's good. It's like it's like pretty psychedelic weirdo, but it's got that like pop sensibility. You know, there's something that's like, it's pretty easy to get into the groove of it, you know?
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to make, I don't know, accessible isn't the right term, but I just wanted to make a pop record. This is my pop record, I guess, of, you know, my idea of a pop thing, like a big grand pop thing. I don't know what that means, but
I get it. And there's a lot of like the fuzz, the guitar tone in there is like, it's got to be like an anchor in it, right? What's your setup there?
I don't remember which fuzz pedal I used for that, but the SG was the guitar on the whole record. And that's funny because it's the first record in like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years where the Les Paul wasn't the main guitar. So it's cool. It's got some new blood, some new energy. But always my main amp has been the Fender Quad since, I don't know, main amp for, I don't know, 13 years, 15 years.
Yeah. You found it. You got your tone.
The magic one. And then I don't know, I bounce around, but I must have used either a super fuzz or hyper fuzz. You know, I haven't been playing the Fuzz War, which I played forever, for about 5 or 6 years because everybody started playing those.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't do it. Everyone plays that now. But I just plugged it in the other day and was like, this is cool. I think I'm gonna play this again. So I took my time away, but now it's back.
Good to hear. And like different guitars, they got different sounds in them. I just got a Flying V.
Oh, Flying V, damn.
And it's an Epi phone, and I was like, oh fuck it, you know, like I'm playing in my friend's weddings band. It's their 10-year anniversary.
Oh yeah. And
you know, playing like Rockin' All Over the World by Quo and like learning that solo and being like, oh, this is fun. Like this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun.
It's fun or challenging. Those are the two cool things. You don't want bummer to be in there or sad or harsh. Yeah.
When you play music enough, you're probably going to have some of those days, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, every other day, I think everything I've made sucks. You know,
that's crazy.
But it's just the way it is, you know. And when you're trying to make stuff, you know, writing is hard. You often feel frustrated, and that what you're doing is not. I don't know. It's not what you're trying to do. But yeah, for me, then I like, you know, take a cold shower and I'm like, get it together. Scream in the mirror for a little bit.
Yeah.
Shut up. Shut the hell up. Yeah.
What's that? You mentioned earlier, you know, like finding out like what it is you want to do, like what it is you want to sound like, what it want to feel like. How could you articulate what you want to feel or sound like? Can you like, have you got like words? Have you got like an idea of like what that is?
I think it's changing all the time. You know, I think it's kind of cheating. I feel like I'm kind of cheating, and it kind of maybe makes people. I think it makes people that are fans of certain records of mine like upset because I just kind of don't care and do whatever I want. And I get it. You know, someone who's a fan of like whatever a record of mine that's like poppier or cleaner or more, you know, straightforward is like, why doesn't that happen more? So in that sense, I don't know what I want to sound like. It's all reactionary. It's all informed by the other stuff I've made, I think. And I've definitely maybe it's the Gemini in me. I don't know. That seems to be like, oh, that one was sort of successful. Maybe I'll make the complete opposite next time. Which I don't operate that way anymore, but I think the younger me found that pretty an exciting way to be. Now that's not a parameter of my decision making, but no, I don't know. I want to rock now. That's where I'm at right now. I want to make stadium anthems. I want to get in the football, you know, song book.
Yeah. You want to be the night after Beyonce at the stadium.
Hell yeah. No, I want to replace Seven Nation Army. Is what I want to do.
Do you like that song?
I mean, it's a great riff. There's a reason why everyone sings that riff. So I'm gonna write the next Seven Nation Army.
This is the bit I'll clip up.
Hey, I'm gonna write the next Seven Nation Army. No, I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen though.
I mean, it is wild just to stop and think for a second, like, you know, he wrote that one day, you know, on like maybe like a 3-string guitar or.
I think he famously said that like they didn't even care about that song and it was like a kind of a throwaway song.
Yeah, and I think Ben, who runs the label with him, was like, nah, it's not that good. And so he was like, well, fuck you, I'm going to make it good.
That's pretty funny.
Hey, well, you know, if you need a flying V back there,
okay,
you got my number.
Cool.
Hey, good to chat. I just got one more question to end with, which is that I'm a big fan of people's work fuck-ups, work gaffes. You know, I think especially when you're doing like sort of various precarious jobs in between tours, or, you know, you're a young person, you're working at different bars, or then you're going to fuck up one day. And I'm putting you on the spot here. No worries if nothing comes to mind. But did you have any days where you fucked something up?
Oh, I fucked up some stuff for sure. Yeah. One really stupid one. I'll give you a couple. I worked at a pizza shop, and one day a bunch of knuckleheads and me wanted to drive up to Amoeba to go to the record store, and I knew I was working, and I thought I could just call in sick, and I just was like, "Hey, man," I didn't even call. I don't know what the hell my problem was. I think I was 19. And they called me and they're like, where are you, man? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not coming in. And they're like, well, you're fired. And I was like, okay. So that's not a fuck up. That's just me being an idiot.
That's a good one though.
I worked at this radio station called KUSF in San Francisco. Awesome station. It's not there anymore. I was in college, and I played a Stiff Little Finger song that had fuck in it. Mm-hmm. So I fucked up by playing fuck on the radio.
Not allowed.
That was bad. And I was on the list of, you know, be careful. Yeah. And my shift was 3 to 6 a.m. And about a week later, I was studying for a French final, and I slept through my shift, and there was dead air on the radio, which is like a big fuck up. It was a big fuck up, just dead air. And so I immediately got fired. Immediately. But what's crazy is about a year and a half later, my record was the #1 record on the radio station there. So I got asked back as a guest DJ and was like, they're having me back. I got fired and now I'm back.
Vindication.
No, I apologize so much. I felt so stupid. Again, 19. Me as a 19-year-old, I seemed to not be good at showing up places I was supposed to be at on time.
Funny.
on tour, I've done stupid shit, like left my guitar at the club.
Oh, damn.
Stuff like
what
that.
What happens? You go back, you go to the next town and you went back for it. What happened?
I think we had to grab it some other time. I think someone just held on to it for me for like 6 months, which is insane.
That's funny.
I've done stuff like played someone's drum set at the practice space when I wasn't supposed to, and then I broke their drum set. Again, this is all when I was a very young person. Yeah.
Learn to say sorry quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Break an amp.
Yeah, I mean, borrowing other people's gear at shows and practices, that's got to suck.
One show I broke 3 amps, and it was even one of the amps was like someone's friend, and it was like, sorry, man.
How'd you do that? You just put it dial it all the way up and then run pedals.
That's how I play. I dime everything. So my fault. One time though, I've had the other side of it happen to me where someone just borrowed my guitar at the practice space, and I came back and the headstock was just broken off, and then no one admitted to it. It was this whole thing where we were trying to figure out who did it. I mean, every time I've ever broken anything, I've been like, I broke it. Here's the money. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And again, all this stuff was like 20 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But no one admitted to breaking my guitar. So,
do you know what? Never forgive, never forget. You gotta hire a detective agency.
I know.
That'd make for a good series, actually.
There you go.
Hey, lovely to meet you. Thank you for the time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take it easy.
So there was Ty Segall on 101 Part-Time Jobs. His ace new record, Possession, is coming out this Friday. Cheers for being here. Later on this week, we got Annie DeRusso and then Dan Ozzie, the writer, coming on. And then beyond that, we got David Keenan. I'm going to be at Primavera Sound, interviewing some bands there, so we'll get that on the feed. Jenny Beth, Allo Darling, King Gizzard, Gweno, Rival Consoles, Natalie Bergman. Loads of great names. Some of those I haven't actually recorded yet, so maybe it's a bit hubristic to say that. But loads of great stuff going on here. Thank you for being here, and see you soon.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.